What up? I'm Josh Paulson, and this is Inspector Josh Investigates TV, where we reverse engineer popular and niche TV shows in order to draw story writing lessons from them. Today we're going to look at Snow White with the Red Hair. We're going to look at Season 2, Episode 15, at least it's called that on Hulu. Hulu's system is weird because I think it's either Episode 3 or 4 of Season 2 in reality. I've seen some weird stuff with Hulu's numbering, but if you're watching this on Hulu, you would go to Season 2, Episode 15. The episode is titled Indecision Caused by Confusion, and particularly I looked at the sub, shouldn't matter for you. Warning, spoilers for this episode and a little bit of previous are ahead. What we're going to focus on in this episode is how Prince Raj wants to change. Now, popular opinion, or at least psychology, is that people will change when the pain of not changing exceeds the pain of changing, but that's not necessarily true. There are many different struggles that we have where we want to change, but sometimes we don't even realize that we need to change in areas. We may have a bunch of pain in our life that is brought on by our own foolish decisions, but we don't realize we need to change. So we are in pain, and yes, the pain of changing would actually be less than the pain of staying the same, but we aren't aware of what's going on. So it's not just about how bad things are, how good things could be, because we get ourselves into some deep trouble. So there's more to it than that. And for people to change, they need 3 basic factors to be in place. And you can see this with Prince Raj in this episode and a bit previously. Number 1, they must make the decision to change. They can't just want to change. They have to make the decision to change. So I might want to become more fit, but unless I make the decision to exercise, I am not going to necessarily do anything about it. There are plenty of things that we want, but we don't act on. And Prince Raj, even though he's not necessarily thinking about it in these terms, he is actually making decisions. He asks his staff, what's something I could do to become a better prince? He ends up apologizing. He ends up talking, making eye contact with Shiraruki. And, wow, I'm butchering pronunciation right now, but they need to make the decision to change. And number 2, they must know what to change. I can want to change, but if I don't really know what I want to change, I'm not going to do anything about it because I don't know where to go. I might be like, hey, you know what? I want to be a better person. Well, that's pretty broad. If I can hone in on different things, then I can actually start developing in those areas, which is where Prince Raj is like, guys, what's something that you notice about me? What's something that I could improve in? And that's a legitimate question. It's a question that we can ask ourselves to grow, and it's a question your characters need to know what to change. And this isn't all necessarily going to be a huge, conscious, thought-out process, but this step is there. And number 3, they need to step, step, step. Doing one thing differently one time does not necessarily mean you are now a different person. It's a consistency that can result from a changed heart. So, for example, if somebody generally tells lies and they tell the truth one time, they aren't now a new person. They just told the truth one time. There is a consistency that can result in development and change, and it's that step, step, step. And you can see Prince Raj's little sister being like, oh my gosh, he's taking a big step. He apologized. And when you look for those different pieces for the steps, you can actually see the development. It's not enough for a character to make one choice. For them to actually change, for you to actually see a change in their heart, you need to see the consistency, the consistent steps, and the consistent development. So to repeat those, for people to change, they need 3 factors to be in place. 1, they must make the decision to change, not just want to change. That's important, but they have to make the decision. Number 2, they must know what to change. And number 3, they need to step, step, step. So when you're writing your characters and you want them to develop, now, there are different types of development, but what I'm talking about here is the character choosing to change. You need to have those 3 pieces in place. Now, I do want to point out that, yes, they must make the decision to change. That doesn't even necessarily mean that they want to change. Sometimes we change and we don't really want to. Somebody might make a decision, for example, to bow to somebody else's wishes who is putting pressure on them, but they don't necessarily want to. For example, Prince Raj got some advice from his advisor, like, hey, you know what? Invite her, do these things. He took that step. He didn't really want to have everything go down as it did. So sometimes we make decisions that we don't necessarily want completely. He did it for some reason, but sometimes we can make the decision to change even if we don't want that. So that's something else to keep in mind. We can change by making decisions that we aren't entirely comfortable with too. And we can change for the better or we can change for the worse. These take place changing for the better and changing for the worse. And that's where the need to step is really important, because whether you step in the right direction or the wrong direction really determines your fate in life. If you make one bad big step or one good big step, on the one hand, that's a big step, but it's not as big of a deal as the little steps that add up over time. So remember, when you are having your characters develop and when you want them to grow and change, to look at these three pieces. I'm repeating myself way too much probably, but here we go. Number 1, they must make the decision to change, not just want to change. Number 2, they must know what to change. And number 3, they need to step. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back with an episode. I don't know exactly when. It might be a lot sooner. I did the Inspector Josh Investigates Video Games thing. Frankly, I don't think it went that well, but you can check that out on YouTube. Did some playtime of A Hat in Time and talked about it. Had a glitch where I didn't record the audio. Anyway, you can check that out. You can also check out my website, joshpaulson.com, for a free ebook. I believe it's over 25 full-length pages or something like that. And you can also check out my other podcast episodes. Got a lot of cool freebies. Hopefully soon I'll have my TEDx speech out, which I talk about how to develop a story concept in 10 minutes or less. Have a fantastic week. Let me know what you're up to on Twitter at Josh Paulson, and I wish you the best in all of your storytelling endeavors. Take care and have a great one.